I want to start off this video by apologizing. Lately, I've been making a lot of housing affordability videos and responding to people's emails about their not so great situation with the housing market. And even though my intention is to educate, a lot of you guys have been leaving comments like this and been getting a general sense of dread and basically think you'll never be able to buy a home. I want to apologize to you if you guys received that negative energy from my videos, and I want to let you know that I'll do better from now on. Today, I'm going to make a video specifically for anybody who feels like you guys are never going to be able to buy a home, and we're going to give you guys a game plan. Like we're going to just get into the weeds here. I even created a free home buying resources that I'll link in the description, and I'll show you guys how to download it to really give you guys an action plan of what we need to do to get the ball rolling. So first and foremost, let's talk about this idea of you're never going to buy a home. It is a very sad thought to think, and it's one of the basic fundamentals of American citizens have. We should own property, right? And when you look at the circumstances the way they are right now, it feels like you're never going to be able to buy. But if you really think about it, interest rates, right? Outside circumstances out of your control, prices, all these things are things that are going around you. These aren't things that are necessarily you're creating. That this stays the same, and this stays the same, and this stays the same, then yes, you're right. You're never going to be able to buy a house. The good news is if you look up any charts, like interest rate charts or housing value charts, it's not just a flat line. It changes. Look up any data online. This is not flat. Yes, there's a huge spike here, but it's not continuing to go up. It's changing, it's adjusting. There's been spikes before. It's not completely flat. The same thing with interest rates. It goes up, it goes down. Once again, it is not a flat line. So there's a fundamental disagreement here. Like, you thinking you're never going to be able to buy is not true. Okay. There's this saying that I really want you to inherit and really think about when it comes to buying a home. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So this is you. I know I have pretty good stickman drawings. You may feel unlucky right now because there's not very much opportunity for you to buy a home. But if you follow this saying, quite simply, when there's not an opportunity, what must we do? We must prepare. Before we move on, you might think, well, shoot, I should have just bought a house in 2020 and 2021 when things were amazing. Shoot, I wish I would have bought in 2015. Shoot, I wish I would have bought when I was in kindergarten in 2000. Well, for me, I was graduating high school 2010. So why didn't I buy as a junior in high school, right? We can keep going back and reflecting. What if? But here's the reality, okay? The people that bought around this time, yes, there's some of them that were like, oh gosh, the interest rates are low, buy a house, and then they just like squeezed out a down payment out of nowhere, or they like forced the situation. I get there's those people out there, but a lot of those people were preparing beforehand. Like, oh, I bet you, I mean, look in the comment section, they'll tell you there's a lot of people that even though they bought, they still watch me. So thank you guys, but they've been preparing since like 2018, 2019. And it just so happened that when the freaking market was insane, that's the time that they were ready to strike. And yes, they were motivated a little bit more because interest rates were low, but I hate to break it to you guys. It wasn't a great time to buy then. It really sucked. Like, you needed a lot of cash. You needed to invest like a lot more extra liquid money because you had to compete with investors. You had to compete with like these cash buyers that came from different states that were just making it insane. Like, you needed to waive your inspection, waive your appraisals. And a lot of those home buyers now are regretting it because yes, they have an amazing rate, but they bought the house without an inspection and they have to deal with all these repairs. It's good to look back and say, oh, when back in the day when I should know. Let's let go of that idea. Okay, let's go back and let's focus. Luck equals when opportunity meets preparation. So how can we find ourselves to be lucky next time? Well, first and foremost, there's two things we can do here. Okay. Number one is we need to know what it takes to be prepared. And I want to apologize in advance for my chicken scratch writing. There's a reason why I'm on YouTube right now making videos and not writing perfect calligraphy in the museums or whatever the heck kind of job is for people that have perfect calligraphy. So we need to know what it takes to be prepared. And two, we need to know what market factors that are preventing us from buying right now. Or in other words, understand what is preventing us from buying. Now, this is a little more tough. So I did create an Excel sheet to help you with number 2, which we'll get to. But let's first talk about what it takes to be prepared, because it's like easy. People start doing this first. They go and find out, oh, what is my down payment? What is my closing cost? Like they get so obsessed with this and they start looking up videos about different loan types and whatnot. Let's take a step back here and let's simplify this. Okay. So first and foremost, you're not able to buy right now. Prices are too expensive. Okay. What do we need to be preparing so we can get lucky when the opportunity comes again? And number 2 is really important because we need to know when that opportunity is there, right? We need to know what's affecting us, our ability to buy now, so we can keep an eye on it. So when it does change, because it will change, one of the things will change, rates or prices or something, we will know when it's our opportunity to strike and be lucky. And people are going to be like, oh, so lucky. No, you've been preparing. You've been watching. So let's talk about what it needs. Number 1, what do we need to prepare? Like, what does that look like? Now, a lot of people are obsessed with this and they'll go look up loan videos and look up different loan types and like, what do you know? Should I go FHA? Should I go conventional? Bro, let's take a step back before we go worry about what we qualify for. Let's get some essentials first. You shouldn't be even thinking about buying a house until you have these things solid and done. I don't want you looking up videos about what loan to qualify for until you have the following set. Number 1, your emergency funds. This may seem like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how much people I talk to that say, oh, I'm going to use 5% down for conventional financing for 500, 400,000 or something. So like they have 20,000 in the bank. And it's like, great. Okay. So what do you have for your emergency funds? I have 20,000. What do you mean you have 20,000? Like you have 20,000 on top of your? No, I have 20,000 total in my savings. So wait, you're telling me you have a $20,000 savings account and that's what you're using to buy down payment? Yeah. Now, I think a lender will qualify you. Sometimes they require reserves, but that's a completely crazy situation. Like that's I can't even. I'm like, my brain's frying right now. And I get it when you haven't experienced hardship, or maybe you just don't know. Like you just feel like, yeah, I'm gonna use this down payment funds, and then I'll just save up again when I live in my new house. 2 things. 1, when you live in your new house, there's a lot of more expenses that pop up. So you're not going to be able to save at the same rate as you were before. What does this mean? Repairs. Like you're going to want to buy furniture. You're going to want to, do upgrades. You're going to want to just, have the house be presentable. Like maybe you're not going to go completely remodel the place, but you want new stuff, don't you? Right? So it's just, we can't have that idea. We cannot even think about doing this. Maybe you get lucky and you can just save up again, but we have to live with the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is you buy a house and then an emergency happens and you have no money. Like that's not something you want to put yourself in, right? So you want to have an emergency fund set separate from your housing fund. I don't care if it's the same account, you can have that, but have it very clear what funds are for emergency, what funds are for the house. You can vary here, guys. I'm not going to give you a general range. You can have 2 months, 3 months, 6 months of reserves. You find this out by figuring out what your survival number is, or your survival number is going to be, and you save that much and you don't touch it. So right now, if you have $15,000 in your bank and you're like, I have $15,000 saved for my house. No, you don't. You have maybe 10,000 for your emergency fund. So you set that aside. You only really have 5,000, right? The more you have in your emergency funds, the better. Right? And yes, you might not be able to go get your house right now, but you're watching this video because you can't buy right now anyway. So why not build that emergency funds higher? Why not have more liquidity? You can get to the point where you can keep saving and you might be able to get 20% down when the opportunity strikes, right? You just don't know, and you won't be able to know until you actually have that money in the account. So really make sure to have those emergency funds set and keep them, of course, separated from your housing fund. Once you have your emergency fund set up, good news, you can start saving for your house. The second thing is we have to have our credit in order. This is a little more vague. You know what it feels like? I don't know. Some people might not, but a lot of us do. When the credit cards are over, they're to the maxed, and it's like overwhelming. Like you make the minimum payments month to month, and you're just like you feel like your credit's controlling you, not like you're controlling your credit. Now, I'm not Dave Ramsey here telling you to go credit free, but you want to get your credit in order. You have to, first of all, identify a goal. 50%, 30%, 20%, whatever it is, as long as it's on, you write it down and it's in your mind. Have a goal to make all your credit accounts get to a certain amount. So if you have like 2 credit cards that are maxed out at 5K, make a goal. let's start off with 50%. I'm going to get both of these to 50% before I even think about buying a home. Now, of course, I put emergency funds first because that's a priority. The second priority, and especially if you have time to prepare, is okay, let's start tackling those credits down. Now you pay one down in $2,500. You can choose to continue it and pay it off completely, or you just go to the other one and you put that one to $2,500. Or maybe you do a little bit at a time, $300 to one, $300 the other next month, and slowly you'll dwindle them down and you'll have your credit in order. You don't have to have your credit cards completely paid off to buy a house. I mean, I'm a believer in having them like controlled. Like if you have them controlled, then your credit like really boosts. If these things are somewhat set, I'm hoping this helps you get your credit score up. You don't need to have your credit be perfect, but if you're having your credit in order, you're actively working on increasing it. So hopefully we can at least get you to 700 plus. Even if you're going FHA, like you could go FHA as low as the 600s, I guess. But like really credit in order, you're working on things and you're getting your credit higher and higher. Only then, once this is stuff done, then you can start working on your housing fund. How much money do you need for a house? Well, listen, I can spend the next 10 minutes telling you, but I've literally made videos about this. Like I just made one, how much can you afford a $300,000 house? I made a can you afford a $400,000 house? Not only do I talk about affordability, but I talk about what you like how much money you need or how much does it cost. Like right now, I'm just trying to help you guys help your mindset. And we can go learn that later with other videos. So I'm sure they popped up already around my head, or I'll put them at the end of the video so you can go watch them as well. You have your emergency funds, you have your credit in order, your credit score is going up, you have your housing fund set, like you're working on creating your housing. So this is what preparation looks like. We know the money aspect of it, we got the credit aspect of it. Obviously use this time as well to really research your market, understand it very well, look up the data, look up the Zillow, Realtor Trulia, or Realtor agents, lenders, like become an expert in your local specific market. And your goal, honestly, is I want you to get to the point where you're more knowledgeable about the data than your agent is. Like they're selling houses, but they're not like a lot of them don't look at the data every day. Like I've helped people that they know like every house that's sold in their specific neighborhood that they're looking for in the last month or two. They kind of see the trends. They know what's going on. They might need my help, like kind of identifying what the data means, but they have a very good sense of what they know. And more importantly, they prepared mentally. Like they're like doing this for a higher purpose. When I talk to them, I'm like, holy crap, like these guys are buying a house with me or without me. And like I better like really bring my A game. And that's what you need to bring to the table in terms of preparedness. You not only have all these things down, but you have this like higher reason of buying. You have a really high sense of urgency of why you're doing this, because it has to make sense. Like you're doing it for a reason. You're not doing it because mom and dad are telling you to buy. You're not doing it because you're trying to invest and make $1 million. No, it's like you're doing this for a higher reason. My parents rented growing up. They never owned a piece of property. I want to buy a place to call them home, and I want to leave it to them in case that way, down the road I'll buy something else, and this is going to be their property. I grew up in a certain circumstance, and now owning a house and having a piece of property in the United States that belongs to me really is something that I value, and that's something I'm going to do. Like having that like grit. It doesn't matter if there's a guy on YouTube saying you're stupid and why are you buying a house right now? Like you're like, I'm doing it for this reason. I don't care what anyone says. And that's that kind of mental preparedness you have to prepare. Let's talk about the second part of this is understanding what is preventing you right now from buying a house. So to do this, first we need to figure out what your budget is, like what can you afford to buy a house right now. You probably have a sense of the monthly payment that works for you right now, and if you don't, you really need to run that budget scenario. So I'm going to show you on screen using one of my calculators. This is not the free one I'm giving you. This is one I have available on my Patreon, but I'm going to quickly do a breakdown of like how to determine what you can afford versus what you can qualify. And if you don't know how to do this, once again, I've made videos about this. I want you to go watch them. Like really understand what you can afford versus what you can qualify for. Really understanding that will help you determine what's that monthly payment that works for you. And odds are you probably feel discouraged because you watch one of those videos and you probably know what that number is. So we're not going to spend time doing that today. So go watch those videos if you happen to stumble upon those without thinking. This is the sheet I created to help us figure this out. This sheet will be available for free as a free download. Go check it out. Links in the description. You just basically, when you look at it, it's not going to look like this. It's going to look like something like this. So you click it and it'll tell you to sign in a Google account because you have to be signed in. But when you do sign into a Google account, you'll see it. You won't be able to edit it or adjust it or do anything. So you have to make sure to go to File, make a copy, and you'll have your own copy that you can use for whatever you want. And if you mess that copy up, you can go back and re-download it completely for free, guys. Have at it. This is how we're going to determine how we're going to use this, okay? So first and foremost, we know an idea of what price range we qualify for. We know what our down payment amount that we're looking for or we're trying to aim for looks like. We have to kind of you have to do a little work here and figure out what your insurance premiums look like in your area. So like if you're in Florida, this might be higher in the $4,000 or $5,000 range. But most of the time it's like $1,000 to $2,000. So this will be probably a little more harder to find. I guess let me just Google. Cincinnati, Ohio is in my mind. So let me just look it up real quick. Literally Googled Cincinnati, Ohio insurance premiums annual house, just a bunch of key terms. And I found this one, $993. Okay, so that's our average. So if we were in Cincinnati, Ohio, $993 would be our annual premium. PMI, this one we're going to leave at 100 unless you're putting 20% down, or basically if you're going FHA or you have low credit score and you're going conventional, this will probably be closer to 300 or let's say 250. If you have great credit and you're going conventional, then this will probably be under 100 or 50, 60, 70, depending on how great your credit is. And if you're going 20%, this will be 0. So just so you know. In this case, I'm going to put 150 just to kind of be like moderate credit, nothing amazing. Once we have these numbers set, then we can adjust our annual property tax chart. This is going to range. So if you're in an area where your taxes start off annually at $3,000 a year, and then they kind of slowly build up to $10,000 a year, then you leave this alone. But if you're in an area like New Jersey where the taxes are like $15,000, well, go look up some houses, figure out what the annual property tax range, and get a good range here. Like they might start at $6,000, then you go to $8,000, $9,000. So changing these numbers will affect this. So it's really important that you do this correctly. And that's it. Once we have that set, we can use this cheat sheet to figure out where we need to be to qualify. So in this case, I'm going to use my area, for example. Houses are about 400,000 right now. I want to put 10% down. Taxes are not as high. They're probably on the lower end. So we're going to do 1,000 to like maybe 3,000. And the reason why I'm putting a range is because I'll find different houses in my area that have like, some have cheaper taxes, some have more. So I want to get a good range. So $400,000, 10% down. Insurance premium is probably closer to $1,200 in Phoenix, Arizona, sorry. And I have better credit. So I'm going to do like 70 here. Now I know, just kind of an example, looking at my budget, I can only afford about an $1,800 monthly payment. And the way things are now, so we find our interest and we find our tax rate. So let's say $2,000 tax rate at 7% interest. Right now, that house looks like $2,731. Too high. That doesn't work for me. So what do I need to change to get a $1,900 monthly payment? What needs to change is two things. The rates need to drop to 3 or 4, which seems unlikely. So really what needs to change is the price. So prices drop about 10% would be 40. So about 5%, which is not that much, but let's say they drop 5%. Now it looks a lot more better. Now I can probably buy something in mid-tax range for 4%, but still not doing it for me. So they need to drop even further. 360. Okay, now we're talking 5% rate, $1,000 tax rate. So in this specific example, what needs to change is 2. We need to get the interest rates to be at 5, and we need prices to drop to about 40,000, so in about 10% of that range. We try this again. Let's say I don't know, a $2,400 payment works for me, and I'm trying to buy a $450,000 house, and I'm still in the same area. Right now, this $450,000 house is about $2,947. Well, I can see here that I don't need prices to drop as much, but at the current price range where things are, if they interest rates drop to 5%, then, and well, obviously lower tax range. So, and I get maybe like $10,000 off the house or something, it could work, right? So if houses drop about $10,000, which I mean, we could just probably negotiate that off. That's not even waiting for the market to drop, but the interest rates drop to about, 5%, then it looks like it works for me, right? So in this case, I just need to wait for the interest rates to drop down to 5%. I don't necessarily need the prices to drop. Now, if you're looking at this and you play around with it and you're like, it doesn't work either way. Rates can drop, prices can drop. It's still like not working. There's 2 things. One, we need to, like, if the taxes are way too high, then you need to consider moving. I'm sorry. If you live in an area where your taxes are like like 6,000 to 8,000 to 10,000. You can only afford a $2,000 payment. This doesn't work. You need to go to a different, like, it just doesn't work. You can wait for interest rates to drop to 3%. We can have prices drop all the way to 380, and it's still tough, right? So this will really make you like think about what's going on with my area. Is it going to ever feasibly work? Or do I need to look at different areas with lower tax rates? But more importantly, I think the idea is you're looking at where your rate needs to be to basically be at the monthly payment you afford, or do you need to kind of work that price range and a combination of the rate to know what rate? So you'll figure out, okay, prices need to drop about, I don't know, 5%, 10%, from 400 to 350, 400 to 360, whatever that number is. They need to drop to 360 and I can afford. Or you might say they can drop to 380 and rates can drop to 5 or 6, then I can safely afford. And basically you have more a crystal clear idea of what you're looking out for. Obviously, this requires you to be in tune with the market a bit, so checking your rates, which I'll include a few links in the below how you can check the rates for free. And I think for prices, just continuing to look on Zillow and stuff like that, you'll see once you'll see if houses are dropping in your area, you'll start kind of noticing, oh, like there's more houses at 350 now, there's more houses at 330 now, right? So that's just something that you have to be in tune with. So all right, a lot to cover in this video. I hope this video helped. Once again, if this brought you value, please let me know. Support the video in any way, because these positive videos on do is great. So thank you guys so much. I'm hoping this brought you a little more positive energy. Yellow shirt guy out. Take care.